This video has the possibility to make me look very, very stupid. Now, as a Warhammer content creator, and speaking in regards to my clear contemporaries, I do want to preface this is all in good fun, but it is also a genuine theory of mine regarding who the next Loyalist Primarch to return to the setting will be. And despite what both Majorkill and Chapter Master Valrak have said, I don't think it will be Leman Russ. Now, given that I am both God and John Warhammer himself, let me explain who I think it will be, but let me first explain why I don't really think it will be Leman Russ. That being, he is not subscribed to my channel, much like you ought to be. Okay, in all seriousness, it's because of the whole Tree of Life thing that people often cite as what he's been doing. The thing about that is, it's an old piece of lore from 1999, and yeah, I know, really ironic for me of all people to discredit something just because it's old, yeah, I get it, but there's never been anything really confirming it ever since the book Space Wolves in 1999, and even then, it's a piece of speculation by the Space Wolves themselves, not really any hard and fast piece of lore like, oh, he was sent on a mission to find the Tree of Life, or we know that's what he was doing. The only thing we know about his leaving is that he got up at a feast of his Jarls and fellow Space Wolves and said, I'm going to leave you now, and he left with some of his followers and said, I will return when it's the end times for the chapter, the wolf time. That's from the short story Two Metaphysical Blades. We don't hear anything about the Tree of Life. It's pure speculation by some of the Space Wolves themselves. Even they don't have the unilateral theory. Honestly, I'm not really sure why people put so much stock in it aside from the fact that it sounds cool. We really have no confirmation, and I looked. I've spent the last, few weeks trying to find anything, any proof positive, but nothing's really come up. The closest thing we've gotten is from the Arcs of Omen trailers, where one of the cards for Farsight's coming book was the Tree of Life. People had really high hopes for that to mean something, but it just went nowhere as far as I can tell. And while I haven't unfortunately been able to read the book, my ability to get my hands on books is severely limited, mainly because I refuse to let my parents find out about this YouTube channel, so I do rely on other sources, such as what people are saying online, and other YouTubers to come out with videos, people like Baldermort and Arbiter Ian, who I am both very big fans of. It really does seem to me like the Tree of Life card was just a red herring, them throwing out an old lore piece to kind of shake things up and throw everyone off, in a similar way to what they did with Starchild when the Star card came out, but there was no mention of Starchild despite its appearance in the book Throne of Light back in 2022. Furthermore, another reason people seem to be so convinced Russ will be the next one back is because of his relationship to the Lion and the fact that Space Wolves are so popular. They're actually not that popular. Yeah, I get it, everybody likes the Space Wolves, but they do have a fair few amount of detractors. And, admittedly, their star has just sort of fallen. People don't really talk about them that much anymore, they don't really spark much interest or imagination anymore, people don't really view them as, oh, that cool barbarian chapter with this really awesome historical motif. That distinction nowadays goes to a different chapter, but I'll get into that in a minute. Secondly, the big thing about his relationship with Lionel Johnson, who has just returned, isn't really that much of a selling point because, think about it this way. We have Gilliman, who is jaded but is doing his best for the Imperium, and now Lionel Johnson, who is also jaded and doing his best for the Imperium. But what happens when we get Leman Russ, who is jaded and will do his best for the Imperium? You see where I'm getting at here. It just wouldn't bring that much to the table unless there's some really massive character shift for him, which I don't think there would be. So we would have 3 Primarchs with a similar disposition who are all now wiser, because as we know, Leman Russ has gotten a lot wiser. It's the last thing we saw of him before he departed with his honor guard. I hate to say it, but that's just boring. And the fact that he and the Lion get along so well, something that is mentioned in the new book, Lion, Son of the Forest, that love they had between each other, I just can't see it adding that much to the story except more of the same. It just wouldn't be that much of a shakeup to the setting, especially considering we are now getting used to Primarchs returning. It's not really a big shock anymore. Now that that's more or less out of the way, let me get into who I think will be the next one to actually come back. In my mind, given the fact that we know where they are definitively and have a vague idea of what they might be up to, as well as how interesting it would be for them to come back, I believe the 2 most likely candidates are Jaghatai Khan, Primarch of the White Scars, and the mutated Corvus Corax, Primarch of the Raven Guard. Now, as a reminder, Jaghatai Khan, around M33, went to lead his legion in the Great Scouring, where he encountered Drukhari raiding parties, and after they kidnapped some of his warriors, he chased them into the webway, and there he's been ever since, supposedly hunting them down. Now, unlike Leman Russ, the only information about whom we have is from Magnus, who said that he is, quote, trapped somewhere not good. Jaghatai Khan's disappearance has since been recanonized. We got, in the 8th edition Space Marine Codex, confirmation that that's allegedly what happened, and artwork, official artwork of the event in February of 2023 in the First Founding Legion's art book. This beautiful spread depicts Jaghatai Khan chasing down Drukhari raiders on a white horse, supposedly displaying the alive oral tradition of Jaghatai Khan's disappearance that is held by the people of Chagoris and his legion. This, I know, is again a theory put forward by his legion, but it's one that's been recently mentioned and would likely have more basis in reality, as opposed to this piece of lore from 1999 about Leman Russ's search for the Tree of Life. For them to release this piece of artwork, in my mind, is just way too specific, and for them to furthermore make this one of two pieces public when they announced the art book. The other one being, oh look, an art piece of Corvus Corax descending into the Eye of Terror. We'll get to Corax later, but I hear you say, Chrono, Khan has been in the webway for so long. If he hasn't come back since, why now? Well, that, dear listener, is because of the ending of the Arcs of Omen series, wherein Vashtor is able to assemble all of the key fragments and turn what once was Caliban but is now the demon world of Wormwood into what it always was. A device created by the Old Ones to help build the webway, a sort of tunneling device, now giving him access to the webway and ease of transport across the galaxy. This could finally see the webway come into play, thereby forcing the Eldari into a more frontline role in the narrative of 40k, as opposed to what they've been in recent years, this backbencher Xeno race, even less relevant than the Tau or Necrons, sadly. Now, please remind me, who else has been bumming around in the webway for the past little while? That's right, Jaghatai Khan. And this would be the perfect moment for him to show up and say, hey, Vashtor, like hell you are, and just kick his ass, or God knows what else the Khan would do. This, of course, is coupled with the fact that the White Scars have absolutely eclipsed the Space Wolves in terms of that cool, wild, and untamed Legion aesthetic that really has come into play in the Siege of Terra. Ever since the Siege, they've just gotten so much love from the fans. People love making the Mongol memes. People love the jet bike memes. Everybody loves the White Scars. Seriously, show me one person who does not really like the White Scars. The only thing holding them back is the lack of content about them. And I think this would be the perfect opportunity to jettison them to the front where people would really like to see them again. This is also coupled with his much more complicated relationship with his brothers. The two of them never really trusted Jaghatai even before things all went to shit. And yeah, the Khan's relationship with Dorn and Sanguinius got better because they fought shoulder to shoulder during the siege. A siege that Lionel Johnson and Gilliman were not present at. This also goes hand in hand with his very free-spirited attitude and his I don't play by your rules way of being that's always been sort of a hallmark of his. He would just bring so much more to the setting, in my opinion, than Leman Russ would, who would likely just end up being more of the same and getting along with his other two brothers just a little too much to be that interesting. This, along with the fact that we know where he is, we've gotten this recent art about him, and the fact that the webway is likely going to come into play going forward, make me believe Jaghatai Khan is the most likely Primarch to come back. The second most likely Primarch, as previously stated, is the corrupted Corvus Corax. The reason for this is because, much like Jaghatai Khan, we have recent confirmation as to where he is. It's a really well-known story. He descended into the Eye of Terror to hunt down the traitor Primarchs and has zeroed in on Lorgar. There's an entire short story covering it, Shadow of the Past, wherein Lorgar's warriors are being picked off one by one and they don't know what's happening. So he breaks his meditative seclusion after having become a demon Primarch, only to have to fight the corrupted, raven-like Corax, who proceeds to basically hand him his ass, only for Lorgar and his warriors to run away into the warp through a rift, that Corax can't follow through, with Corax telling him, "It doesn't matter, Lorgar, I have your scent and I will hunt you until I get you." Lorgar has not been seen since, but it is stated to be rumored that he has returned to the galaxy at large ever since the opening of the Great Rift, and the Wordbearers themselves have been making a lot of moves in canon books, such as the Dawn of Fire series, where Corferon himself is serving as a leader and pushing troops into the Imperium as they essentially propagate a war of faith, spreading the Dark Creed and the worship of the Dark Gods in the wake of the Great Rift. So, if Corferon is out and about, and the Wordbearers are making moves, and it's rumored that Lorgar is now in the galaxy at large, who could very well be hot on his heels but the Raven Boy himself, Corax. Now, it should be noted that the Raven Guard are not a particularly cared for legion. Nobody really thinks much of them. Nobody even remembers them at all. They're like the Iron Hands in that regard. But I think that's counteracted by the fact that Corax's introduction as this tainted, monstrous enemy who is still very much loyal would be incredibly interesting and would shake up the dynamic of returned Primarchs, again, instead of just being more of the same like Leman Russ would be. I think it would be such a shakeup, because how do you approach that? How do you deal with it? And for the sake of reiterating, this is the most canonically sound Primarch fate thus far. This short story, Shadow of the Past, is not old. It's from like 2017 or 2018. That's really not that long ago, all things considered. That, again, coupled with the art of Corax descending into the Eye of Terror, was made public in the preview lead up to this book, much like the Jaghatai Khan piece. Dorn is MIA, Vulcan we have no idea about aside from the artifact thing, Ferris and Sanguinius are dead, and Russ we just have very little to go on aside from this one really old theory from 1999 that doesn't seem to be given much weight anymore outside of a red herring in the Arcs of Omen. I think the only logical options are Jaghatai Khan and then Corvus Corax, but barring them, I would say Russ is probably the third most likely, barring some large lore leap forward in regard to the Salamanders. But what do you guys think? Who do you think the next Primarch to return will be? Because we know we're probably gonna get more. Do you side with Majorkill and Valrak and believe it will be the Wolf? Or do you side with ya boy and think it could be the Khan or the Raven? Let me know in the comments below. I would really love to hear your take on things, especially if I missed something. But until then, I will see you in the next video.